Which brings us to what is the difference between a disability and an impairment. An impairment is a restriction or limitation within a bodily function. An impairment. It's a restriction or limitation within an organ system or bodily function. Typically as it relates to the ADLs, your activities of daily living. What's the definition of a disability? A disability is specifically work-related. An impairment is not work-related. It has to do with the human body. Any restrictions or limitations with the human body, emotional, mental, physical. Okay? A disability is when there's a restriction or limitation with the person's ability to work to perform an occupation. Now here's a really good simple analogy of how to explain this. Now before I go into this, who gives disabilities? Well, remember, who gives impairment ratings? It's a physician function. It is not an administrator's function. Who can give disabilities? Administrators. Now, do you as a chiropractor want to give a disability? No. Now, if you get asked for a disability, what's probably the reason you were asked to give a disability rating? They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know the difference between an impairment and disability. That's why they did that. Chances are they didn't know the difference. How much knowledge do you have to have about the person's work to be able to give a disability? A little or a lot? A lot. That's why you do not want to get involved with disability ratings. Now, could you give a disability rating? Do you have the ability legally to give a disability rating? Yeah, it's a much lower bar. An impairment rating is a higher bar. A disability rating just says, well, you can't do this kind of work. Or you're limited with this kind of work, that's all. So you could give a disability rating, but I want you to understand that that's typically a workers' compensation issue, not a personal injury issue, okay? They're two different things. So you will typically and should never give a disability rating. Matter of fact, if I'm asked to give a disability rating, I won't do it. Why? Even though I could, I won't. And by the way, I am disability certified. I still won't do it. Because how many different job functions do I need to know?
All of them.
Huh?
All of them.
Yeah. So do I need to kind of be full-time in that field? Yes. To do it well? Yeah. I can't tinker with it because I got to know what's their mechanism, what's their weight, what's their repetition, what's the frequency, what's the environment. You see how that's a different animal? Okay. Now, one way to explain it, is there a difference between a disability and impairment? This is a very good way to see the difference also. Remember, an impairment is a bodily function, a disability is a work restriction, okay? Impairment is a physical and mental organ function restriction. Disability is work. So what's a real easy way to think of it? If you're a professional pianist and I crush the last digit of my finger right here, it gets amputated for whatever reason. How much of an impairment is it if I lose the distal part of my last phalanx? How much of an impairment is this? How much will this restrict or limit my ability to do activities of daily living? Huh? Probably not much at all, right? How much will this, now remember, I'm a professional pianist. How much will it affect my ability to play the piano? How big of a disability will I have? It'll be big. I probably won't be able to play professionally again. That's the difference. Kind of keep that in mind. That's a very easy way to think about it, okay?